Al, I hope you have your dancing shoes on.
Always.
Whatever dancing shoes means.
I don't know. I don't actually know how to dance.
Me
So,
either.
yeah. So I'm gonna assume that they're the most comfortable shoes that you could possibly own.
Well, I guess it depends on like what kind of dancing you're doing. Like if you're doing like ballerina stuff, those
You would
shoes
need
aren't
ballet
comfy.
shoes.
Those shoes aren't comfy, I don't think.
It depends on what. If you're using toe shoes, then no. But if you're using regular ballet shoes, they're really comfortable. I have some of those.
Well, there you go. The more you learn, the more I
Tap
learn.
tap shoes are not comfortable.
Yeah, those
I
are the
used
ones
to wear
like you have to
tap all
stand
the
on
time.
your toes, right? And it's like torture.
Like I got no, those are the toe shoes. Those
Oh,
are ballet toe shoes. No, I'm saying tap with the like metal heels.
like a tap dancer.
Mhm.
Ah.
Surprise! I actually do know stuff about dancing.
Hey,
Hey!
those are things we're not going to talk about today.
No.
No, we're here to talk about dancing video games
See.
of the video game variety.
Of the video game. Wow.
Here on the latest episode of the Season Checkup OVA. It's episode 77. That's 2 sevens. We're one away from like hitting the jackpot in the casino on a slot machine. One of those things. But we're not going to do that because we have 700 more episodes to go to that. We'll get there eventually.
One day.
One day. This is a podcast where we have conversations like about video games, anime, and manga. Hello,
Hi.
I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al herself and Lady M.
Hello.
And we're here to talk to you about some new games that have not even hit over here in the America.
Oh, one of them has.
Well, okay, yes, one of them has. But the other two, they're secrets. They haven't come out over here.
What?
New things. Import copies.
Oh my God. That's illegal.
I like to think this is very secretive. Like we're a '90s gaming magazine. It's like, oh, we got the new imports in. You're not gonna believe what they got out in that other country. Like what?
Perfect.
We are here to talk to you about the Persona dancing games because 3 and 5 just recently came out. Well, when this goes up, it'll be last week. They hit Japan finally, and also Persona 4 Dancing All Night because technically that is a thing you can get with those two games depending on the versions you get, and we also technically have not had a proper full-length episode about that game. So what better way to shoehorn that in than here in the now?
I'm down for it.
Exactly. So, we're going to talk about Persona 3 Dancing Moon Night, Persona 4 Dancing All Night, Persona 5 Dancing Star Night. A lot of dancing and nights.
So many.
So many. I figure we'll talk about the new stuff first and then go to P4D.
Yeah, seems legit.
Seems legit. So, if you played Persona 4 Dancing All Night, like, these games are going to be pretty similar. There's not a lot of changes to the mechanics of the actual gameplay. Like, the only thing they've really done is they've made the non-fever scratch rings a little bit more noticeable. If you remember in P4D, they're just pretty much normal blue rings.
Yep.
And this, they're a little bit more defined, and like I think they have like a thing that says scratch on them, or like they have at least something that makes them a little bit like, hey, this is something you should do. So that's one new thing. And they've also added a new type of hit where it's like there'll be two notes together and it'll be like double hits. So you just like hit the button right after one another. So like those are a new thing, but it's a little inconsistent on like when they do those because like they'll just be normal notes that have those and they're not labeled as such. So I don't really know what the benefit of like adding that into this game was, but I don't know. I played a little bit like going back to P4D. Like there was a couple times where it was like some of those notes that were like very close next to each other were very like almost overlapping each other. So maybe that's to kind of alleviate that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it seems kind of strange that it's a little inconsistent, but maybe just the way I'm playing it makes it a little seem that way. So those are really the only two gameplay changes that these things have compared to the original game.
And a cut story mode.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was getting to. But pretty much like they are, Persona 3 and Persona 5, the dancing games are identical. They have the same menu options. Like obviously they're stylized to their specific game, but they are pretty much the same game, just with different characters and songs. That's the differences you're getting. So both games have a long list of songs that you get to dance to, a smaller roster than Persona 4 Dancing All Night, considering they are just the party members and the Velvet Room attendees for each specific game, and that's pretty much it if we're excluding the DLC characters. Because if you remember, P4D had all the party members and then added in some new characters like Kaname. They also had Nanako, and Margaret was in there as well. So a few other characters besides just like your normal party members.
And P3 is down technically 2 playable characters, but specifically 1 playable character.
So, I mean, you do get Shinji in DLC. He's coming later, but there is no Koromaru, which is a huge disappointment.
Yeah, that's tragic. And also, like, we've talked about this. Potentially, they're not going to release the female protagonist, but they should.
Yeah, we're going to talk about DLC, like, later on, but...
I know, I'm just grumpy still.
No, I'm going off your point, but, like, the producer and the director of P4D who decided to become producer for the new games, Wada basically said that like they have DLC scheduled out for up through August, and their current DLC release schedule is up through July. So there is opportunity for more stuff that hasn't been announced. Because we talked about this, but when they put out Hatsune Miku for P4D, that was announced like at the very tail end of their DLC stuff, and was not something that they had decided to announce until like after they had released everything else. So there is precedent for there to be more stuff, but the chances that we get female protagonists are slimmer by the day.
Yep. And Koromaru.
And good boy Koromaru. I mean, at least we get him as like a video.
A video, but
it's not the same.
Let
that dog dance.
I mean, they let the cat dance.
They let the cat dance. Why don't they let good old doggo dance?
Discrimination.
It's true. How dare you, Alice?
Just because he can't talk doesn't mean that he's not a party member.
He's a good party member. One of the best.
Good party member, and he's adorable, and we all love Koromaru.
It's true. So I'm going to say something that might be surprising to some people. Well, maybe, but maybe not to people who regularly listen to our podcast. But
I'm probably not going to be surprised with whatever you say.
I don't think these two games are as good as Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
I kind of suspected that would be the case.
And the main reason is there's the story mode, the removal of that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that the story mode of Dancing All Night was just so freaking good. And like unfairly good.
The best spin-off game.
Oh,
best
totally.
Spin-off game story.
It was just like insanely good. Mm-hmm. And so to not have that in there is a huge like detriment to the other games. And so it feels more like cash grabby.
True. And I think if you look at this just from like a feature set, like both of those two games are downgrades compared to the original game because, you know, lack of story mode, less characters. I think there may be more songs, but it is kind of a bummer. Also, we talked about this in terms of the soundtrack for Persona 5. And we were talking about how, at least in my perspective and some of yours, because you've heard some of the remixes, like some of those remixes just don't really work well with that style that Persona 5 has. And, you know, it's easier to work with the styles that P3 and P4 have because it's more like rock and rock rap style for P3, poppy music for P4. Acid jazz is a little bit harder to like to make remixes of. Let's just say it's not
And
like
to make
just
like danceable remixes.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, at this point I've listened to the entire soundtrack of both games.
Hmm.
So like while I have not played the games, I've listened to the music.
Right.
And I'd say like most of the P5 soundtrack, which if you guys remember from listening, I have come around and I have now said that the Persona 5 soundtrack is great.
It's really good.
I had a change of heart, but these remixes are crap.
And there is,
There's like a shining one here and there that I'm like, okay, that's
true.
fine, but like for
Also,
the most part, it's bad.
yeah, and like I looked it up afterwards and just to see like what's the split between remixes and like just the regular soundtrack. And the P5 version has more like just original songs that aren't remixed compared to P3. But it's something else that came to my mind just very recently was that they should have delayed P5. They should have pushed it back. I think past Persona Q2. Because one of the reasons that P3 and P4 work as dancing games is that they have a large library of music to go off of in terms of going from just the main games, the various versions of those main games, and the spin-offs.
Yep.
So they have a large variety of songs they can just grab from just for regular music and also to remix.
And the anime as well.
And the animes as well, yes.
Because P4 had the anime and then P5 has the movies, and they both pull from those things. So it's like P5 doesn't really have anything. And even like though it's been released now, like they don't even really have anything from the anime.
Right, that's coming later as DLC, but like yeah. P3 has P3 Vanilla, P3 Fez, P3P, the fighting games, PQ, the movie animes, like you said. P4 has P4, P4G, the fighting games, PQ, the P4 Vanilla anime, the P4G anime. Those are all things that are represented in those respective games. For P5, you just have the P5 soundtrack.
Yep.
And that's a huge detriment to that game, is that they can't have a huge variety of stuff to do. And
because they only have P5 Vanilla.
Yes, exactly. And one of the things I think I read about just the development of these two games together is that they were making P3 and then they decided to make P5 as well because they knew that this was going to be a big deal. But on the downside is like, obviously releasing this now is going to cash in on the popularity of Persona 5, but you don't have a lot of stuff to work with. I think if you would have released this after like PQ2, to where obviously they've already confirmed that this is going to be Persona 5 based and have some stuff around there, you would have, the Persona 5 soundtrack, you would have stuff from PQ2, you would have stuff from the anime, and that's a lot more stuff to go with that you can kind of like pick and choose. Oh, do we want to have just like regular versions of these songs or do some remixes here and there? And I think that would have made for a better just soundtrack selection for the P5 game than what they have currently.
And I mean, one of my favorite remixes from the P3 side is actually from Persona Q.
Mm-hmm.
That Light the Fire Up in the Night remix is freaking amazing.
I'm real glad that they even just released a version that combines both of those battle themes together finally.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. But you're right, yeah, that theme's real good.
And I mean, that's not from Persona 3. And so, like you said, having not outside media really, but like spin-offs and that kind of thing really helps you build a catalog of songs. And especially, I know that we've talked about like the acid jazz doesn't really lend itself, but if you have something like P5 or PQ2 that doesn't necessarily have to fall into that category every single time,
you can do something different with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a strange thing. Like I think these games are kind of like a thing, or you have to compromise to enjoy these games. Like if you want P3, you have to compromise and basically allow them to make P5 as well in terms of like the dancing games, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I mean, I understood, when they were announced, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And I really didn't care that P5 was getting released as long as I got P3. And after listening to the soundtrack and talking to you and everything, I honest to God do not think I will pick up P5 dancing.
Which I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I would rather buy P3 on both systems than I would pay for P5.
And we'll certainly get into like the main reason why I
Oh
think
yeah.
we certainly wouldn't. But let's talk about the calm feature, which is
Okay.
the story mode replacement essentially.
Yep.
And I guess these things are non-canon because there's no real set dates or anything, especially for the P3 side. I think the P5 side, this is going off of just hearsay, so if I'm wrong, I apologize, but this is stuff I've heard through the grapevine and not through official translations or anything like that. But apparently the P5 side is supposedly set after P5 because the characters make references to things from P5, and also the main character asks why the Velvet Room twins are, spoilers, separated again.
That makes sense. But also then like, did they explain why he's back? Because he never should have left in the first place.
I'm not sure about that, but it would make sense that that game is either post P5 or like very very late game P5 because it would have to be.
Yeah, because otherwise Haru wouldn't be there.
You need all those characters, and she comes in very late in that game. So, for P3, I went through the trouble of trying to translate it. I mean, it was very very rough because it's machine translation. So. But the gist of the P3 side is that, once again, there's no date given, which is strange. But you can kind of infer that either it's post Shinji's death, or just for some reason whatsoever, he just isn't around.
So it's either post Shinji's death or pre Shinji joining, but...
Do they have everyone before he joins?
I mean, Ken isn't really...
a thing yet.
I mean, he's there, but he's not part of their group. So
and the way they interact with each other is that like they're a tight knit group at this point.
Okay, so
it seems like it's post Shinji's death, but like I said, there's no discernible date or anything that says otherwise. But
so somewhere between October and basically January.
Right. But like I said, the gist of it is that you wake up and you're in the Velvet Room with everyone. And they're all very confused, like, well, we woke up and we're just here, so I don't know what's going on. And then...
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. And then Elizabeth shows up and is like, hello, it's me, Elizabeth. And this makes a lot of sense from the Persona 3 side, because in the game, Elizabeth makes mention that she wants to turn the Velvet Room into, like, a club room.
She does say that.
And pretty much the gist of this game is that her sister is away, so she has free reign to do whatever she wants. So she has brought everyone in while they're asleep, so they're not going to remember this when they wake up or anything. So everything's going to be fine. This is just a big dream, essentially. And she's decided to put on a huge party, and she needs everyone to
participate.
Yes, exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. Participate by dancing. And she's going to be the producer of this party.
Elizabeth P.
LEP. And also, like, she tells him, like, oh, this guy knows me, so it's all cool. And they're like, what? So yeah, basically that's the gist of it. Is Elizabeth is bored and her sister's away, so she's going to party. And she's brought everyone to dance.
Really canon.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a lot of sense.
So canon.
Supposedly the same thing is for the P5 side, but I feel like it makes less sense because I don't see the twins being like, golly gee, we're real bored. What if we brought everyone to dance?
Yeah, they're not as like carefree as Liz is.
Yeah.
I don't know. But my favorite thing about the translation that you showed me is that Akihiko's like, so it gives us an opportunity to train. I'm in. Let's do this. And I'm like, that's Akihiko.
Also, she just recreates everyone's dorm rooms.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really intriguing thing that she's like, yeah, we're just going to recreate your dorm rooms.
Even though you're asleep?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Because eventually...
Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was going to say we're going to recreate the fact that Akihiko has no seats.
That's true.
Even though he has...
Two seats.
Two whole chairs and a bed.
But basically, yeah, you get it far enough along with like the calm with everyone, because they all start with like 5 different like little skits you'll see, And then after that, you'll go into each person's room and have to find a little card that's hidden by Elizabeth. And then once you do that, you've basically completed it. But also you can go, that's when you can kind of just like go and poke and prod and look around everyone's room and like look at different objects here and there, which I feel like that's the first time that I've seen something that, obviously these games have PlayStation VR support, that I look at and I'm like, that would be probably pretty cool in VR to like look through everyone's rooms and be like immersed in that environment.
That makes sense, but the way that you word it sounds really creepy.
Yeah, I bet it does.
It'd be great to like VR look in everybody's rooms.
I mean, you really can't be gross about it, so that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. I'm very glad about that.
Because everyone leaves once like you have to do that. Like, well, you have my room.
Well, and you really can't like go through anything, so it's not like you can be really, really creepy.
Right, exactly. I mean, the one thing we learned is that like no one has showers except for like the third years.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like I said, I think there's probably like a communal one.
Yeah.
That's how my dorm was in Ireland.
Also, there's a few people who have calendars and they have the release date of original Persona 3 circled, and we're like, is this a thing in the original game? Like, what's going on here?
And then I Googled it and I was like, oh my God, that's why. That's so clever though.
Yeah.
That made me really happy.
I haven't got far enough along to do that on the P5 side, but it's probably the same thing, so.
You haven't gotten in their rooms?
Yeah, it's probably just like you going around finding something that the twins hid, and that's how you keep progressing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, whenever you do get to it, I want to see Yusuke's room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm real curious. Like really, really curious.
Because there's no defined thing of like where he goes after he leaves like the cafe.
He says he goes like he joins the dorms, but like
you never see it.
You never see it,
yeah.
And so I'm curious to see like what is that? What does his living space actually entail?
Probably a mess.
I mean, this is the same boy who spends all of his money on lobsters, so
true.
Maybe his dorm room's just full of lobsters.
Could be. It's
possible.
But you go through all that, you get through everyone's rooms and find everything that Elizabeth hides, and then I think at the end of it, she's like, that's the end of the party, and you get to wake up, but you don't remember anything.
Didn't you say Mitsuru has like a golden shower head?
Mitsuru has a golden shower.
Golden shower head.
Yes, okay, thank you. Phrasing,
yes.
She has a shower made of gold.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which makes sense since like her room is the most like lavish and luxurious of everyone's.
Sword.
She has a sword just randomly just hanging there. It's ridiculous.
I mean, so do I, but my sword is a little less fancy than her sword.
It's true. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to like go and poke and prod through everyone's rooms, just like see like the things like just to see those environments that you had seen previously in other games, but in a way that's not just like a kind of tiny camera view of what they were.
And in detail, like
exactly.
The Xbox game or the Xbox 360 games that Junpei has were amazing. And the fact that Junpei has a 360 is really fascinating.
Yeah.
And one thing that I made note of that we were talking about is that I was really happy that they made sure to like stick with the dates.
Yeah,
because it's been a long time since Persona 3 came out, and so I was worried because it takes place 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried that they wouldn't keep that, but then like Yukari has a 2007 poster in
so
her
that's real cool.
room. I was like, okay, good. They remembered that this took place a long time ago, relatively.
I mean, 10 years ago. The game came out 12 years ago. It's real old.
What is my life?
Yeah. But yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's real cool. Also, those characters are really well detailed. Like they did a real good job on like making new 3D models for all the Persona 3 characters.
I mean, everything you showed me looked fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, both those games look better than P4D did. And P4D looked fine because it was, it's not like it was pushing the Vita hardware to its limits because it was just character models, considering the story mode was just a visual novel. So, but yeah, like they did a real good job on those P3 models, and I was kind of like skeptical of people being like, "Oh man, I really hope they remake P3 now that they made these models." But seeing those models and how how they animate and interact with each other, like I'm kind of on that boat now. I'm like, man,
Oh, I mean,
they should really remake P3.
that I would day one,
Mm-hmm.
I would be all over that. And it's cute because you find out things like we were talking about Fuka's strings.
Yeah.
Like that's not even really something you ever notice in the game
Or
because you don't see her hands.
or Junpei's necklace.
Yeah, I did not realize he had a necklace. Ridiculous. I had no idea. And so like these things are little details about the characters that like
You've never noticed when just their little tiny PS2 3D models and their 2D art cutouts are the only things you have reference for.
And like Akihiko's B is more pronounced now.
And his weird like sleeve buttons.
His sleeve buttons and his tie is better now. The way that his tie is done.
Yukari has functional hair.
She does. It's amazing. It really is. And we finally know how many trophies Akihiko has.
It's true. I really wonder like how much more work they would have to do. Obviously, like they could probably port this over into like the P5 engine.
Yeah.
But I mean, they got backgrounds. Like there's a lot of the backgrounds for this game are areas you go in game.
Yep.
Like they have one that's for the dorm lounge area. Mm-hmm. But it's like you dance on the coffee table, so it's a little weird. Like the
you have the roof.
They have the roof. I don't think there's anything in the school per se. There may be something.
Is the mall?
Yes, the mall is in there. The place with like the movie theater and the florist shop next to like the sketchy area.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That place is in there.
That's a station, I think.
Yeah, the bridge is definitely in there. And I think there's an area where you fight like one of the shadows. That's in there. So there's quite a bit of stuff.
Major parts are there.
Yeah. Also, like the surprising thing is like one of Aigus's dancing areas is the arena from The Answer where you have to fight everyone.
That makes sense.
But I was genuinely shocked that they would include that because I didn't think they would do anything from The Answer.
Yeah, that's really shocking.
Yeah.
Especially because like technically The Answer hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I didn't get a chance to mention this. We were talking about the models, but I have a new love of Mitsuru with glasses and a ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never really had an attraction to Mitsuru. I actually kind of dislike her for the most part. But then like you sent me a picture of her with a ponytail and glasses. I'm like,
that's a look.
Wow. It's like you know how I told you when I watched the Sailor Moon musical and I saw the girl who was playing Tuxedo Mask and I'm like, that's the kind of lady that makes you question your sexuality.
Yeah.
That's how Mitsuru with a ponytail and glasses was for me. It was a look.
It's one of those things where it's like, why didn't they just go with that in the first place?
It looked fantastic. It looked so good. I'm like, holy crap. Mitsuru, keep that. And then you put her in like crazy outfits and
yeah, I mean, you live and die by the rando.
It's true. It's true. I appreciate the rando.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like, there's a good variety of costumes, as you'd think. Like, there's their dancing one. It's just a variety of like school uniforms and outfits from the games of like casual wear for the variety of seasonal uniforms, all that sort of stuff. Their battle gear, so like it's the uniform with the C's logo and their evokers, and then some like other just variety costumes like a Christmas and a Halloween costume, just some other random stuff as well. Like the only thing that gets real fan servicey on P3 side is that they include the battle panties, but I'm not shocked or surprised they did that because they did in P4 as well, and those were things in game, so like of course they're gonna probably throw that in there.
Yeah, I think the only shocking thing is that I think like Fuka has hers now.
I don't think I got, or like when I was playing the version I had that was a lot further along. I don't think I had like unlocked hers or anything like that, so I couldn't confirm or deny that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Does everyone have swimsuit or is it just certain characters?
I think everyone has their swim costumes.
Okay.
So both
Ken's
guys and girls.
Genius.
Yeah. Ken's is real good.
Ken's is like the greatest thing in the entire universe.
He's got arm floaties.
He has arm floaties and a swim cap. It's adorable.
Which is, it's a funny thing that they even add, because obviously he wasn't there for the summer trips, but that's real good and real goofy.
You sent me that. I was like, that's perfect. That is everything I wanted out of life. And then you show me his room, and he has like the milk carton pirate ship. It's so cute.
He's got like a hamster.
Yeah, I had no idea he had a pet. I didn't know you could have pets in dorms, and he's got a pet.
Well, I mean, Koromaru's there.
Okay, yeah, fair. But he's not a pet. He is a party member.
Yeah, true.
He is a friend.
They're just good characterization in those.
Yeah, it gives me like a better appreciation for Ken that I like maybe didn't have, because like you get to know more of like who he is, because he's a kid. Mm-hmm. He's like, you forget that a lot when you're playing Persona 3, but he is a kid who builds pirate ships out of milk cartons and drinks a lot of milk because he thinks it'll make him taller. And
there are like subtle changes that they'll make when you go back to them. Like some things will like be moved around, or like a new thing will be added. It's
neat.
It's not like a lot of things, but like there'll just be very subtle changes to make it a little bit different.
But it makes it look lived in.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a little strange, really, since this is a dream.
Yeah, but I mean, they're staying in those dorms, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
It makes me. I really want to check out like the P5 sides, just to see like all this different stuff that they put in there. Because for a lot of those characters, we wouldn't have necessarily seen their rooms except for like the protagonist and Futaba.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is whose room have we actually seen besides those two?
I think that's it.
We've seen like Makoto's apartment, but we haven't seen her room.
Right.
That's interesting. I'd like to see like what's in their rooms. Yeah, like I said, Yusuke is like my real curiosity, though. I feel like there's a lot of potential for hilarity there. Also, there's a lot of potential to just be sad because he's poor.
So yeah, like those games, they play very similarly. Obviously, a lot of the goofiness is kept in the dancing as well. Where like some of the team ups are real fun. Where like on P3 side, where the protagonist and Junpei have a dance together, and they look like they've never danced in their lives ever before, and it's real good.
I mean, they might not have.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing they've added as well, where like they have like they've shown us in previews, so this isn't a surprise, but they did gendered kind of music videos for like everyone.
Yeah.
So like the P3 side has the boys kind of like being huge goofballs, and eventually like just going into like a light show where there's like fighting stuff. It's real weird but real fun. The girls have like interesting like LED like clothing, and like they have like,
yeah, I remember that. It's like Tron.
Yeah. The P3 sides are both like, I guess it kind of like fits with the music that they for that game, but like they're almost like pop videos, like they're like pop groups.
That
like
makes
that's
sense.
the style that they did. The P5 side goes in a little bit of a different direction. Like the boys have like a band. They play like instruments, and then like it's intercut with like them like running away from like a heist in the Morgana van. So like that one's real cool.
And then there's the girl P5
ones.
Trash.
It's
not okay.
It's not okay. That's the first thing. I know people are going to come out and defend it, because of course they are. But for sakes, how is it okay for Atlas to have high school girls cage dancing and dancing in front of stripper poles? All in basically Moulin Rouge-esque style attire. I don't know like the proper term for that is, but
burlesque.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And that style of clothing when they're high school girls.
Yeah, like ranging from like 15 to 17, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, not okay. In the least bit.
It's like we have talked about this at length, ad nauseum, about the ways that Persona 5 fails the character of Anne.
Yes.
Constantly.
Repeatedly. Horribly.
And yet again, we are here and they are doing the exact same thing. Like, did they did they play their game? Were they a part of the writing process when they came together for that game? Because clearly they didn't, because obviously her character would not be into this.
Yeah.
The other girls most likely would not be into this.
Yeah, I cannot see Haru, Makoto, or Futaba being into that at all. Like, can you imagine, especially like given the characterization that you do get? I can't say so much about Haru because we don't get a lot of characterization on her, but like Makoto would be so against that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not at all who she is. It makes no sense.
It
and like
literally
Futaba
doesn't.
is like shy as
And she's 15.
and she's 15.
For sake.
Yeah, it's gross. It's really gross. And that's part of why that cemented my decision to not buy it.
I literally got through that thing and I was like, what the is this? Like, I knew going in it was going to be bad because we'd seen previews of it. And we'd seen basically what it entailed. But like once it got to like them cage dancing and then dancing in front of poles, I was like, what the kind of message are they showing with this? Like, what the is going on? It's ridiculous. Like, Persona 5 has this kind of like stigma, I think, attached to it, where fans of it will not really necessarily look at criticism of it very, very lightly, or at least take criticism of it, or think it's infallible to criticism. And this show in particular has had the mantra of be critical of the media you love.
Yes.
And I think that's extremely important. And I think we should definitely look at this and look at Atlas at what they're doing and not be okay with it. Like, I know you can have the argument of like, oh, it's Japan, so it's different cultures, it's different, stigmas, it's different, whatever you want to call it. These are high school girls that they're putting in highly hyper-sexualized positions, encounters, all sorts of things that you want to describe it as. And Atlas has to be cognizant of the fact that, hey, Persona's a worldwide brand now. This isn't some niche Japanese thing. You can't just keep throwing in gross sexualization of your characters like that and think, yeah, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
And I mean, even then, like, Japan can do better too.
Japan
we
can do
should
better.
ask them to do better.
It's 2018.
Yeah.
Like, come the on. Like, I know we were very critical of the backpedaling and backsteps that Persona 5 takes in terms of just like homosexuality and the sexualization of Anne, which those are things we have talked about at length, but just for sake, guys, like, come on. It's not hard to do better. It's not hard to take your characters who clearly have a problem with being sexualized in the canon of your games and think, golly gee, should we sexualize them more? Oh, okay, that's exactly what we're going to do.
This seems like a good idea.
It's infuriating.
It is. It is absolutely infuriating. I mean, it cemented my decision to not buy that game. And I know that Atlas isn't going to give two shits that I have chosen not to buy their game because of gross sexualization. And I mean, there's other issues too, but I don't feel comfortable giving money to that.
Yeah, I don't blame you in the slightest. Like, if that was not included in this game, like if the girls, group dance sequence thing was whatever, it was not that. It was just them doing like a kind of like the P3 girls did, where it's like a poppy band type thing. It would be fine.
Yeah,
this game would be fine. But
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. But basically, because they do this, because they grossly hypersexualize all of their female characters, because of course they are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have anything to do with this game.
No. And one thing I was going to mention is that, like, one difference in like the battle panties in this is that battle panties are optional.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have those on your character. And like, this isn't a group dance. Like, that's a big part of it. That's a cool thing to have in there. They
have to be in those costumes for that dance.
Yeah. So like, that's not okay.
I don't know. We have been critical of Persona 5, but time and time again, the media surrounding Persona 5 has failed in every way.
Yeah, it's extremely problematic.
And it's got me to the point where, like, we were excited that, Persona 6 is not going to have Hashino on it, because we thought, if there is a root of the problem, like, maybe it's at the head of the director, obviously. This aura of, like, homophobia, transphobia, gross sexualization that came through in Persona 3 through 5, there is a link between those games, and it's Hashino. So if he's off the game, if he's off Persona 6, maybe something is going to change.
Yeah.
But these are two games where he was not involved.
Correct.
And looking at that, it seems like this is a problem more emblematic of Atlas in general, or at least the Persona team in general, of what they currently are, and makes me back to being incredibly worried about Persona 6.
Same.
And feeling just incredibly gross that, like, I gave them almost $150 to play these games, and they go out and do that shit.
Yeah, it's really, really irritating, because, like, I don't know, I feel like I've given them so much of, like, my money and my time over the years, and I mean, I guess maybe, like, I don't want to say that we're outgrowing Persona, because that's really upsetting to say.
Yeah.
But unless something changes with the way that they approach their games, then I will be out.
And it's going to sound incredibly hypocritical of me when I'm saying, I would get the localized version of Persona 3 Dancing Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to buy more DLC for these games. Like, that sounds incredibly hypocritical, and I completely realize that. It's just...
But why is it hypocritical?
Because I'm still supporting them.
That's true. Okay, fair.
Look, one of these games I really like. The other one has something that I think is super egregious and completely just derails the entire experience. So,
but it's also like a continuing thread of problematic issues that have existed in Persona 5 from the very beginning. Yeah. So it's not like it's like
it's not like this is it's just revelation.
This is like this one-time thing that happened, and like it's forgivable. It's like, no, it continues to happen. It happened in the game. It happened multiple times in the game. It happened in the anime, and it's happening in the, like, merchandise. It's happening everywhere, and like it's exhausting to have to
keep going through this.
Yeah, it is. Like, do better. It's not that hard to do better.
It's really not.
And I mean, like, I know that there was some controversy, and I know that we've both talked at length about this. I cannot speak. There was controversy with Tokyo Mirage Sessions and, like, some of the editing they did. But even then, like, the game didn't have issues like this had.
Right.
Like, there wasn't anything, like, there was the one, like, voyeur-esque photographer dungeon, but there wasn't anything to the extent of what they're doing in Persona 5 and Persona 5's expanded media. So, yeah. Like, obviously there are people in Atlas who can do better. There's still some issues, but, like,
it's not a Persona team, I guess.
It's not a Persona team, and it's like, what is it about the Persona team that makes it so, like, toxic?
That's a great question.
And I'm wondering if it's not just the fact that, like, again, I don't want to blame it all on Hashino, but, like, they've been under him for so long that I wonder if it's
and why exactly has the turn become
atmosphere?
And why has the turn happened with Persona 5 in general? Because, yeah. I mean, obviously there was stuff in 3, there was stuff in 4. The side games necessarily didn't have that much, or really any, not that I can think of offhand. But with 5, it seems like everything kind of just came unglued, and it just,
this one goes to 11.
Yeah. So I don't know.
It felt like it got a lot worse in 5 and the expanded 5 media than it ever was in 3 and 4. Like, 3 and 4 had problematic scenes.
Right.
Or problematic statements, whatever. But, like, 5 just kind of took everything that it could possibly make problematic, and they're like, here you go, have fun. Trash.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not gonna buy P5 Dancing.
Yeah. So let's talk.
You already bought it, so.
Yeah. I'm already in. Let's talk about DLC. So, hey, if you think I'm just being hypocritical by talking about DLC that I'm gonna buy, hey, fair play. I accept that criticism completely, 100%. And if you want to turn this off now because I'm going to talk about that, fair play to you. I get it. But let's talk about DLC.
Let's do it.
One of the interesting things, at least about the DLC, is that it seems to be cross-game.
Mm-hmm. That's what you said.
So you only have to buy things once. Well, certain things, I should say. Like, the costume sets are going to be game-specific, but, like, the songs are, you buy it once, you get it for both.
That's so crazy.
Which is an interesting concept they have. Currently, what's out is the pre-order set of like various Atlas games of like a variety of like Shin Megami Tensei costumes. That's out right now. The WeGo collaboration set, which is like a different shirt for a few characters, that's free, and then a costume from Morgana, which is also free. There's also some wigs and contacts you can get. Those are, I think, 500 yen a piece. And then the songs they have out now is full versions of both games' openings, which are both free, and then a remix of Voice, the Persona 1 credit song from the PSP remake, which has Koromaru as an anime scene. I think that's 300 yen.
And it has the other characters in like PQ form.
Correct. But yeah, the songs, at least, those are both on, you can get on both games. So it's weird. Like, oh, here's Koromaru, and he's in Persona 5
P5.
game. For the rest of the month, we have coming the Virtual Fighter costume set, the Yakuza costume set, and the Sonic costume, I think, from Morgana. And then music-wise, there is More Than One Heart from the Persona 3 movie, and the opening version of Dance from Persona 4 Dancing All Night. In June, for costumes, there is the cross-dressing set for both games, wing accessory set, race queen set, special head accessory set, Persona 4 Ultimax and Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold costume set, Catherine set, Hi-Ho-kun school uniform, don't know what that is, Futaba school uniform and casual outfit, fighting game second player colors, so probably for those costumes, and then I don't know who this is going to be for, but a Persona 1 version of Trish for some character. She's the fairy who heals you. And
is the Catherine set only P5?
I don't know. This doesn't have them like separated into games.
Oh, okay.
So I think it could be, but I'm not sure. And then Featherman costume set.
Nice.
And then songs will be a new remix of A Way of Life, which that has Theodore, who was the first character DLC. Or maybe, I don't know first, but at least on this list he's first. The opening version of Wake Up, Get Up, Get Out There from P5. Jika Net Tanaka remix featuring President Tanaka. Which I think that's just an animation, but still very good. Fate is in Our Hands from Persona 3, the movie.
Yes.
Beneath the Mask, and that is danced by Lavenza.
Oh, okay.
The
Spoilers.
combined, Velvet Twins. Mass Destruction from Persona Music Fez 2013. Let's Go Phoenix Ranger Featherman, a original TV opening for the Featherman series that has never actually been a real thing.
Nope.
A remix of Breakout from the fighting games Dance by Show. The P5 anime opening and ending. Dream of Butterfly and Snow Queen from Persona 1 and 2.
I wonder if P5 has the terrible walking animation for it.
I mean, if it's the ending version, yeah, it's going to be.
Ugh.
And then The Battle for Everyone's Souls, danced by Shinji.
He wasn't even there.
I know. It's weird.
When is the worst character getting his?
In July, which we will talk about now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
July has, currently for costumes, not a lot, but I'm assuming there'll probably be a little bit more. Mouse accessory set. Trish Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment version. Protagonist Attic Life set. Chibi C's set and Chibi Investigation Team set, which I think those are the PQ things that they have on their heads.
Yeah.
And then in terms of songs, we have Unbreakable Tie opening version and Memories of You. I don't know.
Oh.
What is Unbreakable Tie? I think that's probably P1 or P2.
I don't know. Memories of You is gonna hurt.
Unbreakable Tie is the opening to Persona 2 Innocent Sin.
Okay.
I think, I think the other ones is the Dream of Butterfly is Persona 1. And then
Okay.
the other opening is probably P2 EP, Return of Punishment. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
Memories of You. Following that, we have Burn My Dread opening version, P3 Fez opening version, and then Soul Phrase opening version, which is interesting because I think all three of those songs are in there as full, but these will just be the animations, essentially. Whoops, sorry.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The Battle for Everyone's Souls from Persona Super Live P Sound Bomb 2017, so
Mm-hmm.
live version. Shadow World and Pursuing My True Self from P4 and P4G.
Nice.
The Whims of Fate from Persona Super Live P Sound Bomb 2017. Today from the Fighting Games, Dance by Labras, and then Willpower, Dance by Akechi.
Labras.
And this also says that the only thing that's not accounted for in terms of costumes is the P5 cheerleaders outfits. So that might be like a July thing because that seems to have less costume releases than June at least. But yeah, like they also said, they are going to go through August is the key thing. So like there's probably more stuff to come.
It seems likely.
That's a lot of music they're going to put out there, like much more than they did for P4.
Before, yeah, totally. Um, I'm just gonna say I'm real stoked that Labras is coming back.
Yeah,
I like her.
she's a good egg.
Oh, I hope she continues to have that crazy Boston accent when they localize.
Hopefully.
Oh man, that was. I don't know why they thought the Boston was the best one to like go for in terms of like, she has this Japanese accent. That translates to about Boston, right?
Exactly.
But it was so wonderful. Like she opened her mouth and I'm like, excuse me, what? I love her. I love Labra so much.
But yeah, that's all the DLC. So that about wraps it up for P3 and P5 dancing games.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
But the interesting thing that came with those two games was if you bought both of the games concurrently in the set, you get P4D, a PS4 version of P4D. So you have to buy the PS4 versions of both of those games to get this. Obviously, they're not going to do it for the Vita version because that game's already out on the Vita.
Right.
So yeah, you get P4D for free, a PS4 version of it.
Can I say something before we move to P4D?
Sure.
I am still feeling personally victimized that Bebe is not in this.
It's true. Bebe should have definitely been in this.
He should have been in this. He would have been wonderful. Anyway, that's my piece.
Bebe DLC, please.
Bebe DLC. I don't even care
You
what
jerks.
song you give him. It doesn't even matter because we just need Bebe.
100% true.
Yep. He'll show up in the dreams. It's fine.
So yeah, P4D.
P4D. I played this one.
Yeah, it's still the same game as the Vita version. I don't know how much work they put into it in terms of like other than porting it. Like if they up-res the models a little bit or anything like that. Like it still looks good. So I don't know if there really was any work done to any of the models or anything like that. But like I think the live video or from the DLC that they did of Reach Out to the Truth looks a little bit like less blurry. But then some of the anime openings still look blurry, so I don't know if like they did anything to the videos or anything like that. So I'm not too sure like what exactly was done to all that. So, but it's the same game that you played on the Vita. So
Same game you know and love.
yeah. The interesting thing is that if you bought the DLC for the Vita version and it's the same account that you're using to play this, you can get the DLC that you already had, but they are charging you 10 yen.
Which is lame.
But I think that might be just a weird thing in terms of like just the Japanese store interface. Because I know like if you want to like download like a mature rated demo, they charge you for that. Like it's just like 100 yen.
And I mean, like 10 yen isn't bad. It's what, like a dime?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I think all my DLC ended up being like $2.
So that's not terrible. Just
Like the only other game that I've ever seen do this is Rock Band,
Hmm.
and they gave you everything for free because it's like, hey, you have a license, you've already paid for this, you go for it.
Yeah, but again, like you said, it might be different with
Yeah,
Japan.
going cross-platform like that. Like I said, like Rock Band is the only game I've ever seen go cross-platform in terms of like generations of games or stuff like that. In
Hmm.
terms of doing this, so it just may be a thing of either Japan or just like a thing of like, hey, it's real hard to give you your licenses from the Vita to the PS4, and we just couldn't do it. So hey, we know you paid for this, so you just got to pay 10 yen and you'll get it.
And I mean, the positive thing, in my opinion, is that they even acknowledge, like, okay, you've already bought this once,
Right.
so we're not gonna make you pay for it all again, like full price. So
That
that's good guy situation.
that was the thing that like I think I saw like before it came out was like, hey, you buy P4D or you get P4D in this bundle, like you get your DLC and everything with it. So like that was like kind of the main reason why I wanted to get it specifically is like, oh, like I'll have a consoleized version of P4D, have all the DLC for it. Like that will be very, very convenient.
Yeah.
And it works. All that comes in. It's all the stuff you already had. So it's real easy. I mean, you still have to pay, but like, hey, it is what it is. But yeah, P4D is still the same game. It has the story mode, all the characters,
God, that story mode's so good.
all them songs. Yeah, that story mode's real good. Like, even going through it in a different language again, just like remembering just the moments from it, it's like, it's a really good story. Like,
Which is surprising.
yeah, exactly. Because I know a lot of people going into P4D were just thinking that, oh, it's a dancing game, so it's just going to be a fan service thing. And if there's a story, it's not going to be not that dark or anything or that important.
And then it starts with a suicide.
And then it starts with a young girl walking in on someone hanging themselves,
Yeah.
which is like the most like statement you can make of like, oh, yeah, this is one of those games.
Yeah, it's intense. And I mean, especially because you know, P4 has the reputation sometimes of being like the lighthearted one, but like
Mhm.
P4 still has a lot of dark moments. Like two people are pretty brutally murdered, and then like this one starts with a suicide. So it's like, yeah, P4 has some lighthearted moments, but at the same time, like some real dark stuff happens in those games too. So like, you know, give it credit where it's due.
And the idea that this is like a critique on
The idol
the idol
culture.
industry, yeah, like that's super surprising.
Oh, I love it. I think it's wonderful. And I mean, like, of course I do, but I think it's fantastic that they used a dancing game to like make a statement about like the idol industry.
Right.
Wow. And I mean, it makes sense because like Rize is an idol, and so they can tie it in pretty easily. But
Especially like this is her, considering this is the end of the P4 story, like
mhm.
very late in it. Like this is her making her comeback and all that, so it makes sense. And we get a new character. We get Economy,
Economy.
who has been mentioned like she gets mentioned briefly in like P4 of like, oh, she's the other idol that was big around the time of Rise. Now she's getting bigger because Rise's gone.
Yep. There's like a mention that she had a bust uplift at one point. Um, it was like what Kahneman Kitchen is the name of the
The
group.
group, yeah.
Yeah. So, but she gets like throwaway comments and the other P4 media, and then she comes to us in her full glory and dancing
Mm-hmm.
all night. And she's wonderful. I really like her. I
Yeah.
mean, I could do without her like one costume, but and the shower scene that I didn't remember.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But otherwise, like she's pretty fantastic. Even though she wears Crocs too.
She does.
That's tragic.
Good old Uncle Dejima gets another kid he has to look after.
I know, like he keeps just obtaining children, and he's not even good with the one he has.
It's like, oh god, this kid has a new friend. I guess I gotta look after him now.
And he starts yelling at Adachi, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta take care of this on my own, don't I?"
But yeah, it's just real interesting that they're able to still use like their personas and stuff through the power of dance and things like that, and it's real goofy. And but like also like we said, like there's serious moments in there, like all the Kahneman Kitchen girls get captured and taken into the Shadow Realm where all the dancing takes place, and it's like they have to like face their insecurities and everything. I mean, it's very in line with like the themes and ideas of Persona 4. So,
It
but just
definitely
with
is.
dancing.
The one tragic thing, in my opinion, about Persona 4 Dancing All Night is that they made them like the story says, oh, we had to change all our hair back to how it was, and so like Kanji's back to
Yeah,
bleach blonde, and Chie has short hair again. I'm like, oh, that's
it
sad,
really
but
is.
um, it it is what it is, I suppose. But
Couldn't really market Kanji with black hair, probably.
and glasses.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my favorite kanji because that's kanji. You know what? That's a lie. Any kanji is my favorite kanji because kanji is one of my favorite characters in P4.
I mean, it's at least cool that they bring those characters, at least those characterizations of them back in like the epilogue where it's the preview of before all the events of Dancing All Night, where it's just Rise coming up with the idea and everything, and there is also the golden costume DLC where it has all those post game costumes in it. So
Yep.
you can't
Yeah,
make that all
it was
happen.
really good.
But yeah, like you said, like it is a bummer that there's like, oh, you gotta go back to how you used to look. So that's the way we're retconning that.
But it was a really good game, and you know this. People who are listening may or may not know this. For a good while, it was like my stress relief game. Like whenever I was really, really stressed out, I would just go and play like around in this game. Usually backside of the TV Lotus Juice remix, because that was like my fave,
It's a jam.
is legitimately like a solid jam. That one and the crap, now I know a remix.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like my two favorite remixes in that game.
Like those remixes they did for this game are so good.
Oh, they're so good. I even bought the soundtrack on vinyl.
You did.
I imported it, guys. I imported the Dancing All Night soundtrack on vinyl.
It's very good.
It's phenomenal. I really, really like Dan. Like, I make Dan as in Dancing All Night, not Dan as in like a person, because I don't know who Dan is. I'm sure he's a fantastic fella, whoever he is. But it was a fun, fun game. And so, like, I'm looking forward to having some more of that in P3 dancing. But I am very, very sad that I feel like I'm getting kind of like a watered down version because that story mode's gone.
I mean, you're gonna get the same gameplay, so like if you like that aspect of those games, you're certainly still gonna have that. Like that's not going away.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm happy to have that. Like I said, I'm day one buying it,
Right.
but it's a bummer that we're not getting some form of a story mode. But one of the best things is seeing like how these characters interact with each other, and that's in there, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, one of the first things I mentioned to you is like it's so nice to see just the P3 cast seem happy.
Happy. They deserve it.
Considering all the things they've went through, like for one, like just to see them happy is such a nice thing to see.
Yeah.
And just even just reconvene with those characters, it's a nice thing as well.
I mean, and it's kind of been a while for us to have like those characters, and I swear to God, if they make Akihiko into some protein junkie fiend, I'm going to fight somebody. I will find Atlas. I will find whoever's responsible for that, and I will kick their because Akihiko deserves better.
I sent you the picture of like the protein he has in his room, and you were so mad. But to defend that, like that is actually realistic, I think.
For him to have like protein,
yeah,
like in his room, as in like supplements and that
yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Yes,
yeah,
that part is, but like
him to
if
be like,
they
oh, I
go,
love protein. I love the protein.
yeah, if they take him in the Q route, then we're gonna have some fisticuffs.
Which hopefully they don't. Like I don't. I mean, obviously I don't know. Like I haven't gone and like translated all his skits or anything like that, or everyone else's, so I can't say for sure. But hopefully that's not the case.
I'm hoping not.
Just
but
him being like, oh, I like to train. I like to dance. Hello.
which I mean, like the first one that you translated, I mean that feels very in character for him to be like, so we get to train, right? All right, that's cool. I'm in.
It's no nonsense.
I mean that just seems like the most Akihiko to be like, okay, sure. I mean, makes me stronger. All right, I'm in.
Yeah,
This is cool.
exactly.
Whatever. I mean, like he was going to put on Junpei's hat and try and sneak into Tartarus. So, I mean, it seems pretty fitting for him, really. I'm also just real excited to spend more time with these characters because legitimately
Yeah.
some of my favorite characters of gaming and like forever. So,
And it's been a long
like,
time since we've like spent time with them in like in that state.
yeah, and
Like
I
outside
mean,
of PQ, like it's been since the original, like I guess since Portable came out.
mhm. And even then, like I don't really count Q because they all were kind of reduced to like
Tropes.
tropes.
Yeah.
Um, and then like the fighting games are a little different. Not everybody's there.
And they're all, and if they are there, they're older versions of those characters, so it's not the exact
It's
same.
not, yeah. So it's, and again, some of them are like watered down, poopy versions of them. So, I'm real excited about that one. But again, P5 dancing, you are dead to me.
Yeah, like I said at the offset at this, like these aren't better games than P4D, which is disappointing, to say the least. Like, if you were to like rate these games, like they are not going to be on the same level as P4D. I
Yeah.
think because of lack of characters, lack of story mode, and outside of like graphical improvements, there's not a lot of like new stuff to those games,
Hmm.
which is a disappointment in and of itself. Like, and like we said at the early parts of this podcast, if I can say early enough times, you know, it's a lot of compromise between if you want one game, you have to have the other. But if in order to make these games, I think real good, like you could have probably had P3 by itself, get a story mode in there, delay or push P5D back a little bit past PQ to get at least more music in there to give it a little bit more variety and better opportunity to have better remixes or attempt something else. And I think those could have been better games than if that was the case. But with what we have now, it's compromise.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy that I'm getting it, but again, it's a little disappointing in some instances.
Mm-hmm.
And then in other instances, it's just throw it directly into the garbage can.
Gross.
Gross.
Well, that's your import coverage of the Persona dancing games. Which, of course, like as we're recording this, and it's fairly obvious, it's like they have not announced those games coming out for localization yet. If they are, which it would make sense since they did P4D and every other Persona spinoff that has come out so far. Maybe they'll talk. Alice USA will talk about that at E3. Maybe, who knows? That's still a couple weeks or like a week away after we record this, or when this goes up, basically. But maybe there will be news about that then, or just sometime later this year of when these come out. Because if memory serves me correct, P4D came out at the end of June and was out in the States by the end of September.
That sounds right.
So there would be a turnaround there. It was a little bit of a turnaround, but I guess like it would make sense that these aren't as necessarily as hard to localize because they're not super text heavy like P4D was with its expansive story mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only thing is like you have two different games you're gonna have to localize. I think that's gonna be the challenge, and bringing in all those voice actors in to do lines and everything. So that I think it's not gonna be necessarily a quick turnaround like P4D was. Like maybe we'll see this at like in November.
Maybe.
I think that would be the earliest, but maybe.
I think that sounds about right.
But I wouldn't be surprised if these get pushed back to like 2019 if they're gonna get localized, just with them being two games. I think that's the crux of it. So yeah. So yeah, if you were an English fan waiting for these games, you're probably still gonna have to wait a bit. But it's what you'd expect if you played P4D. So there's that. But just a tad bit disappointing.
And just because everybody expects this from me, you need to know that Akihiko is still beautiful.
He's all fancy now. He's in 3 dimensions.
I know, and like things about him move.
Jesus.
And they do. Like he has little like his tie moves and stuff now.
Yeah.
What'd you think I meant?
I don't know where you were going with that. You were just talking about things moving.
I mean, literally, his entire body moves because he's dancing, but like, he's beautiful.
Make a P3 remake.
That's basically the gist of this entire podcast. Is like,
Persona 3 was a very good game.
Persona 3 was a very good game. Please remake it with these assets.
Be real cool.
That's all I'm asking. Make up for the P5 nonsense and just remake P3.
Yeah.
But don't put any of that nonsense into P3. Just keep it as it was.
Yes.
Maybe take some of the like crappy stuff out.
Yes. Do it.
Otherwise, word for word, we got it. We already have the script. We already have the story. Let's do it.
Do the thing.
Wouldn't even really have to revoice things. You just put them in there. Perfect.
Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang.
Awesome. Print money. I'd buy it.
Well, obviously, no one's going to be surprised by that.
Nobody.
Well, that's gonna wrap this episode up then. Put a bow on it. It's over.
This is our last dance of the night.
If you would like more from us, go to seasonlimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast where we talked about other Persona stuff, which you can check out. You can also find other podcasts like Jared and Al Watch, which, hey, that's the last episode of Sailor Moon went up this week.
Wow. The new season of our show will start next week.
Yeah, new season starts this Wednesday.
Oh, snap.
New season,
Make sure
new
you're
show.
subbed to the new feed.
Exactly, yeah. New podcast feed. If you haven't subbed to that, go ahead and get all that hunkered down. You'll be good to go for the new season. And you can find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you want more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. They're real good. My Crunchyroll piece will be up by the time this goes up. Find that on Twitter or on Crunchyroll. Speaking of Twitter, hey, you can follow us there. Twitter.com/anime checkup. That's where we do Twitter.
You can read all the great articles because he always puts them on the Twitter.
It's true. And you can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SSCOVA, if you would like to give us a buck and support this very podcast. Next week, I think it's time to have an Otome update. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were gonna let me talk about it. I'm so excited.
Well, I didn't think it would. I feel like we had a lot to talk about this week, so it was kind of unfortunate, but it would have been bummed. But yeah, we got next week open. Why not talk about it?
I'm so excited.
Let's talk about some Otome next week. Also, with what next week is, it's going to be time for some E3 predictions.
Yeah.
Because E3 literally starts next week when we post our next episode.
Yeah. Wow.
So we'll talk about whatever probably leaks or stuff that's come out in the time that when we recorded, and just some ideas of what we think might show up at the show.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Look forward to all that next week, and Atlas do better.
Do better.